So today I'm going to be building some wooden fence gates, and that's going to lead from our barnyard out to the pasture. And there'll be some pretty simple gates that should be pretty strong. And it's a nice rainy day today, and nobody really likes the rain except for these ducks back here. Man, these ducks love the rain, so they're really enjoying it. Me, not so much. So today I decided to work in the barn today, and we'll build some gates. So done a little research, kind of seeing what design I want to use. So I think I've got a pretty good design to use some of the material that I already have laying around. So we'll head out to the barn and get started. So out here in our bank barn, we have a bunch of leftover lumber from when we built our house this summer. So all this lumber is just a great resource for us to do projects out here. And this pile right here is mostly all treated lumber. So we're going to use treated lumber on our gate today. But instead of using a 2x6 or a 2x4, we're going to use some of our leftover decking. So we've got some deck boards that are mixed up through here from building our wraparound porch. So we're going to gather those up, and we're going to go back over to the other barn and build our gate. So I've gathered up all these scrap deck boards. These are all just ones that have been cut off. They're not full length. These are just regular pine treated deck boards. And I want to use these up first as we make the gates. I do have some full-size ones. I don't want to get into those until I use up all these scraps first. So to make this gate, it's going to be pretty simple. I went out and I measured between the posts at the bottom and I measured at the top. I wanted to find out which was the smallest dimension. So my first gate was 46.5 inches wide. And so I take that dimension and then I'm going to minus 4 inches off of that. That 4 inches should give me enough room so that I have about 2.5, 3 inches on one side for my hinges, and then I'll have about 1.5 inches to 1 inch, somewhere in that range, for the gap between the gate and the post on the other side. So I'm going to cut my width of my gate at 42.5 inches, and then the height of my posts are 4.5 feet tall. That ends up being 54 inches tall. And so I'm going to cut my, I'm going to make my gate 2 inches smaller than that, so I have a 2-inch gap at the bottom of the gate between the ground. So I'm going to cut these for height. I'm cutting them at 52 inches. So now that you got those two dimensions, it's pretty simple. I'm going to go cut 4 boards of each. So I'm going to go cut 4 boards at 42.5 inches long and 4 at 52 inches long. And then we'll come back and we'll start putting it together. Well, I've taken those 4 boards of the width and the 4 boards of the height of the gate, and I've put them together to get a basic frame for the gate. You can see that on each side we've got 2 boards for the height, and they've got our width boards in between them. And maybe you can see that better on this side. So on this side's the other 2 boards for the height, and then all 4 width boards just go in between them. And we just measured corner to corner to make sure this was nice and square, and we put screws, like 4 screws in each intersection on this side, and we'll put 4 screws. We're going to flip this over and we're going to put 4 screws on the other side at each one of these where these boards intersect. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come back. The next thing we're going to do, so you can see this is a laminated gate. This is all layered. It's going to be 3 layers. It's going to be just over 3 inches thick. It'll be nice and sturdy. But what we're going to do now is to prevent the gate from sagging is we're going to put a cross brace in here. So we're going to cut a top or a cross brace to go on this side. We're going to cut another one to go on the other side of the gate. And everything I've seen, and this may be correct, it may not be correct, but everything I've seen shows the bottom of your your cross brace being on the hinge side and the top of your cross brace being on the outer side of the door. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to go ahead and cut our cross braces and get those in here, and that'll keep this gate from sagging over time. So we've got two cross braces here. We've got those cut and we've got them put on. So there's one on each side of the gate. You can see we've got them on each side of the gate, and then we screwed them at each intersection, and we screwed them from both sides. So that ought to be secure enough to keep this gate from sagging over time. So that should keep that nice and square through the years of being out there in the weather. Now, the only thing that we need to do now, we're probably pretty much done, but we may need to add some boards here at the top and bottom, and that's just if we need to for our hinges. So here, I got one of our hinges right here. So you can see these come in different lengths. So I bought the one that had 3 bolts because I wanted it to be fairly secure since I was making it so thick. So once I put this on here, you can see at the bottom with the cross brace, there's enough material to be able to bolt that all 3 holes. So the bottom's fine. So now if we look at the top of it and we put that on there, you can see, I'll probably put that about somewhere in there. I don't have any material for that last bolt hole. So what I'll do is I'll probably put a board over to the brace, from the corner to the brace on each side, just so I get that full 3-inch thickness for that last bolt. So we'll go ahead and cut those boards, put them on there, and then we'll go ahead, we'll put our hinges on the door. So one other thing before I get too far is you can see right now that there's enough openings in this that a small animal can go through it. So this is the time, if you're worried about smaller animals going through this gate, this is the time to address that. So I personally am going to have small animals, so we're going to have to do something here. So I think I went a little bit too far. So what I need to do is I'm going to take this cross brace back off, and I'm going to cut me out a piece of fencing that is the size of this interior opening here. We're going to staple that in there, then I'll put my cross brace back on, and then I'll finish up and do my upper boards that I need to put on for the hinge. And then it will be done, and I shouldn't have to worry about any animals getting through. The fence gate itself is now completed, and you can see we've got some fencing we've got in here. So you can see it on this side better. So the fencing stapled in there, and then the top board is covering up the fencing at the top. And you can see how it's stapled along the bottom. So we do have our top board in where it's 3 layers thick on the top, so that we can put our hinge on and be able to have something to bolt this last bolt hole through. So that's all we got left now for the gate itself, is to just go ahead and mount the hinges. So we're going to put a hinge here, a hinge there, and then we've got like a bolt latch that we're going to put on up here at the top. So we'll go ahead and put the hardware on. Okay, we got our hardware on there. So we got our 2 hinges on there with lag bolts, and then we put on one of these really big bolt catches, and we're gonna just basically drill a hole in that post so that we can basically latch that door shut. Well, we got our first gate installed here on our fencing. So this gate will lead here from our barnyard out to the pasture. And as far as the gate itself is concerned, I'm pretty happy with the gate. I think the construction's good. I think this is going to be plenty sturdy to keep the animals in, at least for the gate. Now the fencing that's in there, I like how I've got it on the inside. You wouldn't have to do that. You could probably just staple that along the outside. But being on the inside, I think that there's less chance to get caught or on the wire, or your animals to get scratched by the wire. So I think the gate is a good sound gate. Now, there's a few things here that I'm not happy about. Didn't work out the way I wanted to. So one was the hinges. So the hinges, I thought that maybe when I put them on here that I'd be able to swing this door in and out, and that's actually not the case. So let me unlatch this. So when I swing this direction, it actually comes in contact with the post, and it can't really swing this way. So I originally had my hinges on this side, and then it wouldn't swing out to the pasture. So if I had my choice, I'd rather this gate swing toward the pasture than in the barnyard. So then I had to switch my hinges and mount them on the other side. So the second thing I don't like about these hinges is this bottom one is a lag screw hinge pin, and I'm pretty happy with that. This top one I bought a through bolt, and this through bolt I bought a 6-inch or 8-inch long through bolt. This ended up being a 6-inch post, and I thought I'd have some adjustment here so I could adjust the hinge, and the bolt wasn't long enough, so I should have bought a 10-inch long bolt to have any adjustment. But that only really comes in handy when you have a heavy gate that you don't want to take off. This gate's light enough I could take off, so I'd probably prefer having one of those lag bolts on there. So one other thing is I can screw these lags in way tighter and make a smaller gap here. And this one, by the time you have your hinge and then you've got your bolt, there's a small section here where there's no threads. So you end up with a wider gap between your post and your gate with that style also. So I think I'm going to go back on the next gates. We're going to just put these lag screws in for our hinge pins. And then I bought this big bolt latch. And the reason I bought this big bolt latch is because I thought I'd be able to, hinge that into the post. And this latch would work for a gate that swung in and out. Well, now the gate is not going to be working like that. So I may reassess that type of latch on this gate. So there's a few things here. This is our first gate to put in, and so a little bit of a learning curve, things I do and don't like. So next time we'll go with these lags for both hinge pins. I'm going to figure out a different latch probably. We'll see. And then these posts on this one were probably my worst post as far as the gap not being very consistent. So my bottom gap was 2 inches larger than my top, so I sized my gate for the top. So I ended up with kind of a bigger gap over here on this side. So not real happy with the gap that I end up having over here. I think a small goat or maybe a baby goat or something could probably squeeze through there. It's about 3 inches wide, so I'm not real sure. So a lot of that has to do with the posts, but then in all reality I minused 4 inches off that smallest width, and I think I could go I think I can go down to 3. I think I could go 3 inches minused off the width to make my gate, and I think I would tighten this up quite a bit more. I'd have a lot less gap here. It'd be a lot closer to the post, and then that helped me shrink up the gaps around there. If I go with these lag bolt ones, I think right now this lag is actually screwed out so that it can match the pin up there. So if I went with 2 of these lag screw hinge pins, I'll be able to make it tighter to that post, and then I make my gate a little bit wider. I think that'll help on the next ones. So just trying to, you know, show what I'm doing. This is the first time me making one of these fence gates for the pasture, so these are the things that I think are going to work, and these are some of the things I'm not real happy with. So we'll get it fixed on the next 2 gates, and we'll have something a little different. So on the next video, hopefully we'll be coming back. We're going to start putting our field fence in here around the barn and start putting that on. So like always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.